Nancy Basile, you have saved this city. Psych! It's just me. No, it wasn't Oliver Queen or Stephen Amell. It's just me! And happy Arrow Day. Arrow Season 7 came out on Tuesday the 20th, and I am celebrating it today by doing some casual cosplay as the Green Arrow. I'm Nancy Basile, and I started Plus Size Nerd to create a safe, empowering space for plus-size women to gather, to chat, and celebrate our curves and our fandom. And like I said, today I'm talking about the top 5 most important episodes of Season 7 of Arrow, which is now out on Blu-ray and DVD. So let's talk about Arrow Season 7. It was very different this year. Just a warning, I am probably going to spoil some stuff talking about the 7th season of Arrow. I won't go into like super duper detail, but if you've read anything about Arrow this year or next season, you probably already know a lot about what I'm going to talk about. But this year, this season of Arrow was all about redemption. We saw redemption because Oliver turned himself into the FBI at the end of season 6, and he went off to prison, much to the chagrin of his wife, Felicity, and Team Arrow. But he wanted to redeem himself in the eyes of his city, Star City. So there was redemption there. There was redemption in other characters who had maybe not been so nice or had been criminals and were redeeming themselves by joining Team Arrow. There was redemption within Team Arrow itself. Team Arrow, if you recall, had kind of imploded, exploded, however you want to say it. They were able to come together in the end to defeat someone who may or may not be related to Oliver. I'm not saying anything. But to shut down the bombs that were about to destroy the city. And we also saw redemption in the future, which was kind of crazy. There were future flash forwards this season as opposed to the flashbacks, which we have gotten for years from Arrow. I'm going to start with number 5, Level 2. This was towards the beginning of the season. Level 2 is Oliver's prison sentence changes him in ways you would never expect from the Green Arrow. You're left to wonder if the changes are by choice or if Oliver is truly broken. So, Level 2, let's talk about that. That's the episode where we saw Oliver get dragged off to the weirdo place of Slabside, the prison where he was being incarcerated. They were brainwashing him. They were trying to get rid of the violent side of him. He was trying to break the so-called cycle of violence that his father allegedly began by killing the bodyguard in the raft and then killing himself so Oliver could survive. The interesting thing for this, the interesting part of this episode for me was that I actually kind of agreed with the crazy psychologist for part of it, that the father didn't necessarily have to kill everybody but Oliver in the raft for them to have survived. Yes, the rations were low. Yes, it was like a great sacrifice, but it was also kind of a cop-out. You know, he did a lot of bad things and he could go out looking like the hero when in reality he was just kind of ditching responsibility and leaving his son on his own. So is that really, was he really the hero that Oliver had thought all along? I did agree with the psychologist on that, which surprised me. But this episode is all about Oliver's mental state, and we're left to wonder, like, is Oliver just playing along to trick them? Because we've seen him play the long con before, and he's excellent at it. Oliver, we know he's got mental and physical endurance for days. So we weren't sure if he was doing this to trick everyone at Slabside, or if he really was broken, which was a sad state of affairs if that was the case. So that was a very important episode because it was kind of the turning point in how Oliver's time at the prison was going to go. Number 4, Elseworlds Part 2. This was the Arrow installment of the crossover episodes. I loved the crossover this year. I always love the crossovers, frankly, who doesn't? Because like all of our favorite heroes come together and interact with each other, and we just like totally geek out over all that. But I really enjoyed Elseworlds this year for two reasons. It introduced two new characters to us. One, who is getting a spin-off, and you probably know her as Batwoman. That's right, Kate Kane. She will have her own show coming up on the CW. Super excited for that. Ruby Rose stars as Batwoman in that show. But the crossover story arc also introduced a villainous character. Obviously, he doesn't see himself as villainous. Straight out of the comic books, the Monitor. And he will play a very big part next season. More on that coming up, why he will play such a big part. But we also saw the Monitor. He claimed he was testing everyone, trying to find a world that would be worthy. We had seen that he had already destroyed a different Earth. But those were the two characters introduced in that episode arc. And the Elseworlds episodes were also fun because the Green Arrow and the Flash switched powers, and they had to deal with what that was like. And it was hilarious, I especially loved seeing the Flash try to be like the badass fighter. That was pretty good. And I also loved seeing Oliver like all of a sudden end up on the other side of the room and he wasn't sure how he got there. That was pretty funny. Number 3 most important episode, Inheritance. Just when you think you've got one of Arrow's new characters figured out, she takes it one level darker. Who could I possibly be talking about? You know her. I'm talking about Laurel, the new Laurel, because old Laurel is dead, we know. New Laurel is still played by Cassidy, but the new Laurel came from a different Earth, and she was a badass, and she was working with Diaz, and she is one of the main characters that had a big redemption story arc this season, in season 7. By the end of the season, she realized, well, we saw it early on in the season actually, where she began to realize that she didn't want to be the bad guy anymore. She wanted to play with the cool kids. She wanted to be a good hero so that she could play with Team Arrow, right? So by the end of the season, we saw her become the hero that she could have been all along, but that she knew she could be. So Inheritance, though, is where we see the redemption of her begin. The redemption of one of Arrow's beloved heroes who turned criminal and is fighting her way back to the light. So, if you watch the season, and again, spoiler alert, you know that she was trying to do the right thing and she got framed for a murder. So she had to take off, which looked even worse. But we saw that in Inheritance episode, we saw that turning over a new leaf. We saw the leaf turn where she decided once and for all that she was going to do the right thing. That was a big turning point for her in season 7 and for redemption arcs all around in season 7 of Arrow. Number 2 most important episode, Confessions. In the twist of all twists, Team Arrow pulls off a scheme that you will not see coming. You won't. I didn't. Not that I'm great at picking that stuff out, but I didn't see it coming. You won't see it either. Plus, we learn a lot more about Oliver's sister, what she has been up to, Thea, because she left last season. We learn a little bit about what she's been doing, and let me tell you, it ain't good. So, Confessions, we find out that Team Arrow has been faking everybody out. That they purposely set it up to look bad, to draw attention away. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to give it all away. But they really pulled off this amazing, switcheroo. I will tell you what Thea has been up to, and it hasn't been good. So, we've seen Roy in the future, for the flash forwards in the future. He also is in this episode arc, and it turns out he's maybe got some issues that we also saw manifested in Thea, and we also saw manifested in Sarah Lance. What do they have in common? They were dunked in the Lazarus pit and came back to life. So now Roy got killed. Thea, took him off to the Lazarus pit, dunked him, brought him back to life. And guess what? He's got some Roy rage going on. Ooh, that was clever. Not Roy rage. Team Arrow had to blow a smoke screen over that whole thing. So that's sort of what Thea has been up to, is that she did go back and find Roy and they're together, but apparently he died, came back to life, and now he's... So this was a big episode because we found out about Thea, we found out about Roy, and Team Arrow, whoop, pulled the tablecloth out from under all the goblets and dishes and silverware. It was kind of amazing. Okay, but the number one most important episode of Arrow Season 7 was the finale. Of course it was the finale. You Have Saved This City was the title of the episode. The Season 7 finale is an emotional wallop. Sure, the events unfold a little too quickly. They needed like one more episode. That should have been a two-parter because there was so much to cover in that one episode that it just kind of like, it was a little bit fast. I wish it had been a two-parter, but we get answers to a lot of questions. We did. And brace yourself. The setup for next season is a doozy. So you probably, if you're a fan of Arrow, know that next season, season 8, is Arrow's last season. And if you're a fan of Arrow, you know that this season saw the exit of fan favorite Felicity, played by Bett Rickards. How is that possible? Well, it is. So in the finale, it sets up the whole season for next year. And this is where I was talking about, I would talk about the Monitor later. So the Monitor shows up after Star City is saved. There was a whole bunch of stuff they had to do to save Star City, whatever. I wasn't super crazy about the whole sister storyline. This is the interesting part. The Monitor shows up. We know that Oliver, his fate is not so great for the next crossover. They sort of set that up in this year's crossover. His fate is grim. And at the end of this episode, in the future, Felicity walks off into a portal, allegedly to see Oliver wherever the Monitor has taken him. So we know that this coming season is going to be setting up some storyline involving the Monitor, involving Oliver sacrificing himself, and Felicity dumping this earth to go to wherever Oliver is, wherever he's required. It's huge. It's very big, and it's taken right from the comic book. So if you actually want to dig into this storyline before it unfolds in season 8, you can go to the comic books and see what's what. But this is going to be huge for next season. No Felicity, and watching every episode of Arrow knowing that something's going down with the Green Arrow. And it's certainly going to make the crossover episodes even more interesting than they usually are. And I'm really hoping that the crossover episodes incorporate Batwoman this year, because her show should be up and running by then. It usually happens mid-season. So the season finale, huge. Wraps up everything from season 7, sets up season 8. So this season was cray. It was cray. Yes, it was all about redemption, but how they had to get to that redemption, the road they took to get there, lots of obstacles, lots of twists and turns. And just when you think Team Arrow isn't really Team Arrow anymore and that they've kind of sold out, boom, they come back fighting. Also have links in the description to sign up for my weekly newsletter. I share what's been going on in the blog, what's been going on in videos, and what's been going on in our fantastic Facebook group. There's also a link to the Facebook group in the description. Join the Facebook group Facebook group. It is awesome. It's a closed private group of plus-size women who all are into fandoms, and we have conversations about cosplay, Ren fairs. We have conversations about Chub Rub and Forever 21, giving out stupid diet bars and all kinds of great things. It's a fantastic, strong community. I love the women in that group, and we have a great time. So, wow, Arrow season 7, pretty crazy, right? And when you join the newsletter, you will be in the running for monthly prizes. August prize is this lunch bag from Thermos. Cute little Hogwarts dealio house crests here. That's the August giveaway. If you sign up for the email newsletter, you're automatically entered, but there's always ways to get more entries. Join the Facebook group. Head over to plussizenerd.com and click on that blog post to win the DVD. And that's it. If you missed any part of this video, feel free when I sign off here in a sec to go back to the beginning to hear the 5 most important episodes of Arrow in season 7 this past season. And if you want to see any of my live videos or any videos of try-ons, I've done swimsuit try-ons, clothing try-ons, other videos about different plus-size nerd topics, you can go to plussizenerd.com/YouTube and check out the videos there. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when I drop a new video. And that's it, guys.